Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Greg, your host for the Grilling to Get Away podcast, and I'm here with a special guest today. I'm here with my buddy Anthony from Lit Beard, and Anthony is a veteran. He owns Lit Beard company, and then also, we've known each other. He's been a judge at our barbecue contest for the last 2 or 3 years, is it now?
Yeah, at
And
least.
yeah, just a good overall dude. And I wanted to get him on the podcast to talk more about kind of how he barbecues and grills, and then also talk a little bit more about his business. So, Anthony, thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. I love it. I love the
Yeah,
opportunity. Thank you.
yeah, man, it's been a minute since we had a chance to catch up. I think what is probably actually last time we saw each other was at the competition, right?
Probably, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, because all the other tabling events, yeah, I think it was all before that.
yeah. So, um, yeah, I'm excited to have you on here just to catch up a little bit with you, but then also see how things are going kind of in the West Bend area,
Sure,
what you're up to on the
sure,
grill and stuff. But first, with veterans that come on the program, I like to give you an opportunity just to tell a little bit more about your time in service. Um, and what your experiences were, and then we'll kind of get into it after that. So why don't you share with the audience a little bit more about your background, who you are, and then also a little bit about your time in service.
sure. So I'm a dad. I'm a daughter dad. I got
Mm.
a couple daughters, a 13-year-old, and my youngest will be 6 in a week. Hazel and Madeline, I mean, it's the best part of everything I do, right? Prior to being a dad, as you called out, I've been a spouse. I've been married for almost 22 years. My wife and I got married about 1 month before I deployed to Iraq the first time. So I, like many people of our like global war on terror generation, was young and just starting college when the 9/11 attacks happened.
Yeah.
And I basically was like, well, I'd been thinking about the military for a long time, and that was kind of like that final push, right? So I finished my freshman year of college. I enlisted, but I wanted to finish school. I was thinking maybe I would like to be an officer or be a ranger or do something, but I need to get my education done. And so I started by enlisting in the Wisconsin National Guard.
Okay.
And I kind of thought about, well, I can go to school, I can do my 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, and went to basic training in February of '03. Iraq war starts in March of
Yeah.
'03. We watched
Yeah.
that in the day room as the drill sergeants are like, he just gave his sons 48 hours. Like, guess where you guys
Yeah.
are going to go when you're out of here? But I graduated from infantry school at Fort Benning June 6th, 2003. And I did a whole year of that kind of like 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year.
Yeah.
But in the early summer of '04, I volunteered to go to Iraq. So my first deployment, I was at Camp Liberty in Iraq. So kind of like
Mm.
the Camp Victory, Baghdad International Airport kind of area. And just did like typical infantry stuff. Went out on patrols, did security detail when our colonel would want to go out, stuff like that. And spent that whole first year being married deployed, early part of, that war, right? Came back and I volunteered again. So I went back in 2007 to 2008, but this time it was like convoy escort. So it was
Okay.
like during the surge, but all these contractors, hey, this group's going to deliver ICE helicopter parts and, Blue Force tracker monitors, and they're going to get from here to here, and they need security. And so I was a convoy commander going all
Mm.
around Iraq providing security. Got out in 2008, went back to school, got my degree to be a grade 6 through 12 English teacher. Ultimately, and we can kind of talk about this too, the tie into things that I do with Lit for Charity. I started working in the veteran kind of peer to peer space. So I
Mm.
helped facilitate peer led support groups for veterans.
Right.
Tried to go out and advocate for veterans, tell the story about what it was like to come home and deal with the host of reintegration issues. And I kind of used that time to understand even a little bit about what my future as a veteran is going to look like, working with so many Vietnam vets who are like, remember how the drill sergeants told you you're not a unique snowflake? Maybe just mom and dad need to love you, but nobody else thinks you're special. Let me tell you what the next 30 years of your life are going to look like if you don't start, kind of making sure that you're doing the right things for yourself. And so after that, yeah, man, I did what I walked across the country to help advocate and raise money for veterans and their families, and
Well, I think
then
that's
eventually started Lit.
Yeah, that's a big piece. So can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I want our listeners to know kind of that, what came out of that. So you said you walked across
Sure.
the country. So why don't you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So my friend Tom and I were both Iraq vets, like I said, and
Mhm.
we didn't serve together. We served in this nonprofit helping veterans. That's how we became buddies. And in the summer of 2012, Greg, I volunteered to be a study participant at UW, where they were studying the threat stimulus of combat veterans, and they would look at how our brains responded to the potential of a threat. So
Okay.
I would be in an MRI tube. I'd look at clocks, and if it was like a yellow clock, I wouldn't be shocked. And if it was a blue clock, I may be shocked. And so I would look at this monitor and I would go through and they would see how my brain responded based on the color and the countdown of the clock.
Mm.
Get done with all of that. And I had the opportunity to be exposed to this meditation and kind of breathing and mindfulness course that was helping veterans if they were struggling with basically like healthy living. And I kind of started going, more that way. But my buddy Tom was really kind of looking for an outlet. And so he called me one day and he said, "Do you have a ruck I could borrow?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. What's it for?" And he said, "Well, I never took the time that I needed to like address my own shit. I think I've got some buddies I served with that live out in California. I think I'm gonna walk and go see them." Now we live in Milwaukee at this time,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So from that moment, we really started talking, Greg, about, well, why and what do you need? And I need that too. And maybe we could support one another in this way. And so we set a goal to walk from Milwaukee to Los Angeles. We wanted to use that time to kind of heal ourselves, tell the story of everyone that we came across about the experience of being a veteran and what it means to be a vet, but also come home and try to like start something, anything over again, and then also try to raise money for this nonprofit in Milwaukee. And so over the course of 5 months, we did that. We journaled our way, we cataloged our way, and we were lucky enough to have a documentary film crew that had actually interviewed me by coincidence for that UW study. They saw a Indiegogo campaign that Tom and I had to try to like raise a little bit of funds and get some equipment for this walk. They knew
Okay.
my phone number, they knew my
Mhm.
name, whatever, and they reached out and they're like, "We think what you and Tom are doing is really compelling. We'd like to make it into a feature-length documentary." And so they would follow us too. And at the end, Greg, they made a feature-length documentary that broadcast on PBS and a POV series, really talking about the veteran experience and opening people up to the concept of moral injury through your
Mhm.
veteran experience. And then it's been on Amazon Prime. I've gone around the country talking about veterans issues and what it means to be a veteran and come home and support the family. So that was a huge thing for me. So as I got done with that part of my life, like school and work, I started doing that. And then I always remembered I always want to be of service.
Yeah.
Since I was a kid, my grandma, my dad, my parents, whoever, they would always tell me about being of service, be of service to your community, be of service to your state, your country, whoever needs, like, find a way to help. And so through that walk and through that advocacy, I really kind of committed to, if I can help vets, I'm going to do it. One way, shape, or form, I'm going to do it. So as a veteran, as a veteran entrepreneur, if you come to me and you say, "I need a little bit of help," whatever, I'm going to help you. If I can talk about the veteran experience of coming home and trying to reintegrate from combat to peacetime, I'm going to do
Mhm.
that, whatever it is. And so even with Lit Beard Company, I then donate $1 from every sale to Project Welcome Home Troops that teaches that mindfulness and that meditation, because I've seen what it's done for veterans and their families that have gone through that course. And so I just look at that as like a continuation of service.
Yeah, and I think that's great. I think it's a lot of why we serve in the first place is because we want to give back. We have a sense of community and purpose.
Yeah.
What was the name of the movie again, that or the documentary
Yeah.
that
Almost sunrise.
Almost Sunrise? And we'll put a link to that in the show notes. So I encourage people to go out and take a look at it. It is a great, pretty movie, and I know you've spoken here locally, like at the War Memorial and things about it.
Oh
So
yeah.
so that's awesome. And then the donations that you've continued to raise for the nonprofit, we'll put a link below to that as well. So a lot of good stuff, and I appreciate you sharing all that. And again, thank you for
Of
your
course.
service.
Of course.
Not only in the military, but now coming back home. That's a big piece too. So this is a barbecue and grilling show. So I want to get into that a little bit. Um, Now, when did you first kind of start barbecuing and grilling?
I can tell you exactly when my wife and I met, from the day we met to the day we were engaged was only 6 weeks. So
That's
there was
great. That's
no
a great, like,
pregnancies.
I
Yeah,
don't think we have time for
yeah,
that, but maybe a different
yeah,
podcast we could talk
yeah,
about that. But I was thinking about
yeah,
that when you were saying like you left right away on deployment. I was like, oh man, was this one of
yeah.
those, contract marriages?
No, no. So from the day we met to the day we were engaged was 6 weeks. From the day we met to the day we were married was about 11 months. And
Okay.
about a month after we got married, I left. But we were, kind of a quick couple. No pregnancies, no shotguns involved, nothing like that. We just, started going that way. Well, one of the first gifts that my wife bought for me was a grill.
Nice.
uh when I was in college, right, I had the Smoky Joe. I
Hmm.
had the little propane tank, like kind of small propane powered one. I remember many times going camping and there was a tripod involved, or there was some sort of outdoor cooking, and it was always a blast, right?
Yeah.
It's always kind of like just different, and there's just a different feel to it. So when my wife and I first became a couple, she bought me a gas grill. It
Okay.
was like my first proper grill. Gone now were the Smoky Joes from, the second floor duplex, patio in college
Mhm.
and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. There were many times where let's just sit outside. Let's just enjoy. Like, I can cook, we can sit outside. We were both in Wisconsin at that, 3 months out of the year. The weather is good enough to just kind of sit there and cook and enjoy it. But yeah,
It's
that's
almost
when I
that time.
started.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's when I started. I was like 18, 19 years old, really.
So early on, like early on in adulthood, you started.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
because you never know when you're talking to folks, like if it's like just recently or if it was like early on. So sounds like you started pretty early on, and
Huh.
propane. We all start there, I think, and then move on. What kind
Yeah.
of smokers or grills do you got right now?
I have a Weber kettle, like the kind that like you can basically pop out, you can put in for a little bit longer smoking.
Yeah.
If you want to, just the kind that ignites with your propane tank and then you're just
Okay.
running the big old lump charcoal.
Yeah.
I like that quite a bit. Over the years, I've gone through different like smoker combos.
Hmm.
But this one I like. It's small enough to have enough mobility and agility depending on where I like, because I've moved several times over the last few years. So we don't always have a big outdoor space. It's not always convenient to have a bunch of different smokers and stuff like that. But that's what I'm using now, just like a Weber kettle.
All right. So I know, I think it was you gave away a Traeger recently, right? Or like a year ago or so, you were doing like a contest. Um,
So
what made you want
yeah,
to give
right.
that away?
I love, like I said, I love that kind of part of living, getting out, enjoying the time, um, being outside, seeing my kids run in the yard and stuff like that. And so, when it comes to Lit Beard Company, yes, I gave away a Traeger to just a lucky winner of like a competition that we were doing online. This past February, we had a beard competition at Flannelpalooza. I gave away a
Mhm.
Pit Boss smoker.
Ah, okay.
I've given away Blackstones. I'm currently about to ship off a Blackstone to a winner of our online beard competition. Giving away anything like that where you have the experience of going out. Food brings people together.
Yeah.
It brings
Yeah.
community. People are there. So it's like it's something that kind of like centralizes, even if people are spread out all around the yard. It's all based on kind of that. And so I wanted something that I thought someone could use all year, could make good memories. Even if like, they have a meal and they smoke, wings or something, when they go in there, they're like, hell yeah, Lit Beard Company. Thank you for that smoker. Like there's
Yeah.
always another way to kind of experience lit, but then also provide a way to have just like cool experiences in the winners' lives.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And that's part of the reason why we kind of started the business here is, barbecuing, grilling, it really brings people together. And,
Mm,
overseas, I don't know if you had the opportunity to, barbecue or grill or your unit or whatever, but, a lot of times when we send care packages, what the feedback we get is like, it's like a taste of home, right? So bringing back, memories of home and anything we can do to make it a little bit easier for those folks that are deployed.
Sure.
But if you're not following Lit Beard Company, you need to go out there and follow them and subscribe to their stuff, because like I said, if you got a beard, or even if you know somebody with a beard, they're always giving away stuff like Traegers and Blackstones. I was like, oh, they got some pretty deep pockets over there.
Yeah, yeah, and every month we give away, yeah, every month we give away stuff, right? So we include 2 yellow tickets on the inside of the box right
Mhm.
here, these raffle tickets. And like
Yeah.
right here is where I'd personalize a note. But yeah, I mean, we've got everything in here. We give away sample packs for our
It-
buddies at Burn
yeah,
Pit,
if you're
all
if
that
you
sort of
ha-
stuff.
yeah, if you haven't tried any of our stuff yet, you could potentially get a free sample pack if you order some Lit
100%,
Beard. Yeah. Um,
100%.
so that's awesome. Do you remember what your like going back to, because I think my wife was the one that bought me my first charcoal. And I kind of remember my first cook on there. Do you remember what your first cook was?
Most likely it would have been like burgers and brats,
Yeah.
like quintessential Wisconsin, Johnsonville party pack, and just like ground chuck burgers, most likely.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. So nowadays, what's kind of your go-to, or what's your favorite thing to grill or barbecue? When you're just trying to relax and you have a little bit of time.
Yeah. Ribeye steaks for
Okay.
sure.
Hmm.
For sure. I'm still kind of like that burger cat, like it's one thing that my daughters will eat. My daughters can be kind of picky, right? But if I make So believe it or not, this is not just because I'm a guest. Your fire for effect seasoning,
This
they
sweet heat, yeah.
love. Yes, they love it. So if I put that on some boneless, skinless chicken thighs or chicken breast and I
Hmm.
grill that, they'll eat it. If I don't, they won't. But yeah, ribeye steaks, big time. I'm a bit of a cheater when it comes to making ribs. So I'll use a combination of, and I'm sorry, I apologize to everyone. I'm a good guy, swear to God. I'll use a pressure cooker
Okay.
to get them to be basically fall off the bone. And then I'll transfer them over to the smoker, make sure that I get them a little barky on the outside and kind of a
Mm.
little bit more flavorful. And those would be my two things that I would absolutely. So ribs and rib eyes 100%. And anytime somebody's got some burgers and wants to chill, I'll do that
Sure.
too.
So that's an interesting point. Like we've never really talked about pressure cookers here. So what made you want to do ribs in the pressure cooker? Is that something that like you were just looking for a way to do it and you came upon that way, or was it something like you tasted somebody else's? How did that come about?
Yeah. So I never knew that you could cook them in a pressure cooker like that.
Mm,
And there was a supper club that I really, really liked. And on Fridays, they would have all you can eat ribs or all you can eat ribs and shrimp.
okay.
And so one day I was eating them and I was like, man, these ribs are so good. They would just like fall off the bone. Like you could literally like put a bone in your mouth, take it out, and all the meat would stay. It was always so tender. It was really good. And they were like, well, they cook it with a pressure cooker.
Wow.
And I was like, what are you talking about? And so just a little bit, kind of understanding how they were kind of going about doing it. I didn't really know much, Greg, about pressure cookers. My wife, I think we got one year as a gift, and she was like, "Yeah, these things are going to be great. Like we can put a whole roast in here. We can in 45 minutes it can be shreddable, like beef or shreddable chicken or whatever." And I was like, "No shit." So
Mm,
as we started kind of going through this a little bit with ribs, one day I think I just needed to cook them quick, and I wanted to try out what I thought the supper club did. What I didn't like about it was if you just use the pressure cooker, they're kind of like wet and damp. But if
okay.
you then put them out over onto charcoal
The
and let
crisp
them
them
get
up
a
a little
little
bit.
firmed up and crispy, and then put your sauce, put your lid back on, take them off the heat, and now just let that kind of residual heat warm
Mm.
up that sauce to make them drippy. Very good. I love it.
And so I'm intrigued now. So how do you like? So do you have to cut the rack in half, or how do you do that when you put them in?
Yeah, so get your long rack, 2 feet rack or something like
Yeah.
that, and then just cut them up maybe like in 2 bone or 3 bone or
Mm,
4 bone sections, and
okay.
put them in the pressure cooker. Put maybe like a half a cup of water, or if
Mm.
you want to put a little bit of whiskey or something in there,
Oh
you can
yeah.
put all that in there. Seal that up, let her rip. Basically cook them for about 45 minutes, and I'm talking about. I mean, I'll do 3 racks in it.
Wow.
And it's full It's
Is-
basically brimmed out, but yeah, 2 racks, easy, no problem. And then when you're done, while they're cooking in the pressure cooker, go get your charcoal primed up,
yeah,
get that just absolutely squared away. Maybe you're cooking some onions or baked potatoes or something like that with the heat that you're creating. And then when they're done, transfer them over, nail it.
man. I'll tell you what. I learned something new today. I did not know. I guess I never looked into it, but I did not know you could do ribs in a pressure cooker like that. So I will
Yeah.
probably have to try. I'll probably have to try that out. We do have a pressure cooker. I don't use that
Yeah.
much, um, but I'm definitely gonna have to try that out and see how it goes.
Next time I do it, I'll just document it and I'll send
Yeah,
you a link and then you can be like, all right, here's how he did it. And you can replicate as much of it as you want.
yeah. I think I'm probably gonna have to do that. I do like the ease of it. It's the process of you don't have to you know waste as much charcoal or whatever if you but just
Not at all.
just to experiment to see how it goes.
Now, I'm going to give you one other little tip with it. Let's say you're about to go out and throw them on the grill and it just becomes an absolutely torrential downpour. And it's like, damn, we're
mm,
ruined. There's nothing we can do. We're just rained out. After they come out of the pressure cooker, you can put them under a broiler
Broiler,
a
yeah.
little bit and you can get just a little bit. So if you ever in the process get rained out, you got options.
mm. Man, that's a good tip, and I definitely am probably going to try that out here soon, because I'm intrigued to see how they turn out.
Yeah.
I'm
There's
kind of
probably people right now just screaming like, no,
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
sacrilegious.
We kind of a traditionalist, right? So everything, as long as you're not boiling them, but I guess everybody to each his own, Um,
Yeah.
we're definitely open to experimenting. That's what I like about having people coming on. I learn something new, and then I can try something different. Um,
Sure.
and that's the fun thing about barbecuing and grilling is you can always experiment, and then always have a pizza in the freezer in case something goes wrong. Um, all right, man. Well, I appreciate that tip. Let's talk a little bit more about your company. You and I got connected really when
Sure.
we both were kind of starting out the businesses, just through some mutual connections and things like that, and we've got to know each other a little bit better over the
Yeah.
years. But yeah, obviously you're bearded, so I'm assuming that had something to do with you starting Lit.
It did. It was end of 2019 and I was back at that time I was working in Houston and I was
Mhm.
back home talking with a buddy and he was talking about beard oil and this idea of starting like a beard oil business. And we were kind of talking through it and what does that mean and what does it look like and I had used different products in the past, but nothing that I ever really kind of like stuck with. And so I started doing a little bit of research online, watching YouTube videos, all this like just kind of general stuff. What is it made out of and how do you do it? And the ins and outs. And so we would make little test batches of unscented beard oil just to see like could we make a combination that we like to wear. And when we settled on one that we enjoyed, we started giving them to friends,
Yeah,
just kind of like any kind of kind of hobbyist that's like, here, try this, and here's my little
yeah.
remedy or something. And people really liked it. And they were like, you should figure out how to make fragrances and scents. And so really then we just kind of in earnest began. And we kind of started in the spring of 2020 then. So just a few months later.
Hmm.
And of course, the whole world is shutting down in that moment. Um, and that's when we decided, let's, go. And so July 3rd of 2020 was the first sale. I remember I was pumping gas and my phone made a weird sound. It was like a chime that I had never heard before. And it was the Shopify, like you just got an order. And so I was
Nice.
like, oh, that's awesome. And so since July 3rd of 2020, yeah, we've been going. So um, it's a blast in that every quarter Lit comes out with something new and I make them based off of things that are about my culture or things that
Mm.
interest me. And so like right now the current scent is called Gutter Balls. So that's inspired by one of my favorite movies of all time, The Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
Everything is wax dipped like a bottle of bourbon. So Lit Beard Company is Wisconsin based, veteran owned wax dip beard oil. So the experience of a bottle was intentional, Greg. It was like I wanted it to be visually different. So when you
Sure.
see people making stuff like this, you're not going to see it laid out like this. You're not going to see a cork waxed bottle. You're going to see kind of an eyedropper. So I want it to be visually different. Obviously, like tactile experience. You have wax, you have vinyl, you have glass, you have the rip cord. So there's all these different things. Um, Auditory, nobody ever
Hmm.
talks about that for beard oil. When you go through the wax, you pop the cork.
Yeah.
And so you get to pop that, which is a completely unique experience. And then, of course, olfactory, that sense of
Mm.
smell. So everything is completely unique. I don't white label from somebody else and just put a name on it. And so every quarter, I have subscribers, affectionately known as razor haters.
Hmm.
So they get my newest stuff. And then I've got all sorts of different scents inspired by things I love. So one of my favorite cocktails when I go out to a supper club is an old fashioned. So
Hmm.
Lit's most popular scent, Wisco whiskey, is inspired by a cocktail, an old fashioned cocktail from a supper club. So it's got cherry for that sweetness, oak for being like in the barrel,
Hmm.
vanilla, like in your shot of whiskey and stuff like that. I'm a hunter. So I've got hunting inspired stuff. I've got last year, every scent was Wisconsin inspired. Tie into cooking. The last one is called Tailgate King. So
Yeah.
it's like we love cooking food in parking lots in
Hmm.
Wisconsin, you know. So I had to have one of those, but I've got all sorts of different themes. And people love them. I've got thousands of reviews, 5-star reviews. People love the dollar donation. They love the
Mm.
uniqueness of the scents. They love the personalized note in every order. They love the raffle tickets. They love getting offers and extra value add when we drop in stuff from people like Burn Pit in there. Yeah, it's just a good time, man.
Yeah, I mean, barbecue and beards, as well as beers, go together pretty well here in Wisconsin. So
Yeah,
is
we
the
have
is
that t-shirt.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Beards, Beer, and Barbecue. We have that t-shirt. You can find it at
yeah,
litbeardco.com.
nice, yeah. Um, and so is the gutter ball scent like a white Russian or what is it?
Yeah, yeah, good call out. So it's actually 4 different scents. So for those of you that are maybe unfamiliar with the Big Lebowski, one of the primary themes is he's a bowler. He loves
Yeah.
bowling. So I wanted to have a wood in there that
Mm.
I could call out. And so I started looking at like what's a bowling lane made out of? And it's made out of maple. And everything that I found was a little bit too like maple syrupy or
Yeah.
pine. And I didn't, we were just coming off of the holidays. I didn't want it to be like that. So I thought, well, what's got wood and is like quintessential chill, like the dude. So it's sandalwood is
Mm.
one of those. Then we've got vanilla, as you called for his, always
Yeah.
there, White Russian. We've got lavender. So the dude is a bit of an old, retired hippie. He's a bit of an old flower child. So I
Mm.
wanted something, to kind of call out to that. And then he smokes pot all the time. It's like omnipresent in what he's doing. So I added a patchouli scent in it.
Um,
So it's sandalwood, vanilla, lavender, and patchouli. And that's gutter balls. So that
mm.
one just came out April 1st. It'll be my current, like if you sign up for the Scent Club, you'll just get it automatically along with like the free t-shirts and stuff like that that you get. Um, the last one that I did was a tropically inspired one. It was called High Tide Hustler, and that was inspired by what I think is like the best rock and roll party band of all time, like the Bon Scott era AC/DC, because
Mm.
all they sing about is drinking, fighting, and women.
Mm.
And so I was like, all right, let's go make a tropically inspired one and go
Yeah.
there. Now I've got the Big Lebowski, and we'll see what I come up with for July.
Yeah, you can get inspiration from anywhere. And I hope people see like the tie-in, like very much how you're creative and you try and tie in all these aspects in the beard oil. We try and do the same here with the barbecue and things like that. So very much you can be creative and have that mindset going into, your business, into your cooks. So we got a few minutes left here, Anthony. I want to make sure people can find you. So where can people find you if they want to learn more about, Lit Beard, or if they just want to follow
Sure,
you and what you're doing as a
sure.
veteran and a business owner and a veteran advocate? So could you share maybe some places people could find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So Lit Beard Company's website, litbeardco.com. You'll be able to find a ton of stuff on there for all of the lit products. And then you'll be able to kind of follow the trail of breadcrumbs all around the internet from there of like our Instagram, our Facebook, things of that nature, where you'll be able to see not only things about the business, but I often share things about, to your point, what I'm doing. So if I'm going to go out and I've got a public speaking, opportunity to talk about the film or veterans issues, or oftentimes, and I'm sure that you've had the opportunity to do this too, people will want a veteran entrepreneur, or just an entrepreneur in general, to come out and talk to their group, or kind of give
Mhm.
tips and techniques that they could do if they're interested in starting business. So I share a lot of that stuff on Lit Beard Company's Instagram and Facebook page. Um, from there, you'd be able to find me. So like on Instagram, 11C, 11 lowercase c Anthony. So I was an 11 series. So I was an infantryman. I was an 11 Charlie. So 11C Anthony. You can follow me there if you would just want to follow me personally. And then of course, if you're like, hey, I'm not bearded, I'm actually anti-beard. I'm a razor lover, but I do like what you're about with respect to supporting Project Welcome Home Troops. You could always make a direct donation to them, pwht.org, or just Google Project Welcome Home Troops. And when you see the Power, Breath, and Meditation course, you'll know you're on the right one. If you just want to make a donation straight to them instead of us making the donation from every sale.
That's awesome, man. And I will post all of those links below in the show notes so people can find you. So one last question for you. This is,
Sure.
we have a lot of new barbecues and grillers that listen to the podcast. So um, thinking back to when you first started barbecuing and grilling, you just got your first grill. Um, what are three tools or accessories that you would recommend for somebody that's just starting out to get?
Dude, I love this question. So I punished myself for years, Greg, and I wish that I had just done this earlier. Get yourself a good meat thermometer.
Meat thermometer.
I did everything off of like, I think it's about this, and I feel like it's
Yeah.
about that time. And like, just go get a thermometer and see, like, if you want it to be medium or you want it to be rare, like, you'll know. So absolutely a meat thermometer. Um, I don't know how many people will call this out, but sometimes when you decide to grill, it might not always be like bright out. Get yourself a good headlamp. So
Headlamp.
if you're grilling at night or something like that, like, you want to be able to see what you're cooking. You don't want to be like, ah, it looks okay. You find out it's actually way overcooked or something. So a nice little accessory like that. And then lastly, oh man, there's so many things. You know what I'm gonna say? I'm gonna say get yourself, this is so out of like not the grill. Get yourself something like some speakers. So you've got some tunes playing when you're cooking. So like I said before, like when your kids are playing in the
Yeah.
yard while you're cooking or whatever, you've got some music playing or something. Like, give yourself like a good experience. So yeah, get that meat thermometer so you make sure that the meat's the way that you want it. Get that headlamp so you can, I mean, you grill 24 hours a day if you got a good headlamp. And then get yourself a good set of speakers so you can connect that Bluetooth and just rock out, tune out while you're grilling.
Man, those are some good ones, and those are a few that we haven't had on the podcast yet, especially the speakers. This is the first time, so thank you so much for that.
Sure.
Anthony, thank you so much for taking your time to be on the podcast. We really do appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing what you're doing and what Lit's going to be doing here. Coming forward, big things for you.
Appreciate it, man. As always, thank you so much for the support that you and Ben show Lit. I love it, man, and best of luck to you guys too.
Thank you.